Hey guys, Patrick here, obviously. Wanted to come in and intro this video really quick. This is a different video than I've kind of done before. It's way more niche, and so if this video isn't for you, totally understandable. I just recently watched the Friends reunion, and it is my favorite show of all time, and I wanted to commemorate it in some way on my channel, so this video is kind of just for me. But if you like it, that's awesome. Be sure to like it and comment down below what you did like about it, but it is definitely going to be a little bit different, not necessarily as comedic, more so just me kind of remembering Friends, and so if you're into that, awesome. If not, no worries, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Patrick Jones, but I mean, that's what the channel name is, so you should know that. I thought it'd be fun to do a little bit of a tier list. Now, the last tier list I did, some of you guys didn't like it because you have wrong opinions about food, and that's okay. I might not be an expert about food, but what I am an expert on is the TV show Friends. A little bit of credentials here. Me and my family grew up watching Friends every single week. I have watched Friends through at least 6, 7, 8 times. I don't know the exact number, but I know for a fact it's more than just a few times. And I have watched the entire series of Friends in 8 days. I wanted to see how quickly I could get through it, and it took me 8 days during one summer. I could probably do it quicker, but that was without me going insane. So I'm not saying Friends is the best TV show of all time. It's just my favorite. I grew up with it. There's episodes where I could probably just verbatim say the entire thing. There used to be a game called Friends Seen It that me and my family would always play, and that's probably why I'm so good at remembering these things. Yesterday, I got a chance to finally watch the Friends reunion, and did I cry? Absolutely. I thought it was fantastic. Some people were saying that it wasn't worth it, and I completely disagree. I think that's the people who like Friends but aren't as like addicted to Friends and grew up with Friends as much as I did, and I just thought every single second of it was just amazing. And so I thought, in remembrance, I don't even know words, I would do a Friends characters tier list maker. It's actually on tiermaker.com. Not every Friends character is on this list. I think I'm not missing any major characters. We got some recurring characters that are side characters. We have a ton of their exes. We've got some family, and yeah, we're gonna start off and we're gonna go through family, exes, and we're gonna get to the 6 main characters at the very end. So I didn't do any prep because that's just how I roll a lot of these times. Guys, if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe. That would mean the world to me. And comment down below, Friends reunion. We're gonna start off everything with family members. The first 2 characters we're gonna go here have been in Friends a good amount when it comes to like recurring characters that aren't the main 6. And that is the Geller's parents, Jack and Judy Geller. Great comedic moments at the beginning of the series. They even made an appearance in the reunion special. I think they're the best when it comes to like parental figures in the Friends cast. So I'm gonna put them in the B tier, and I'm gonna put the dad a little bit higher because I think the dad is just hilarious. Then we have Rachel's dad, one of my least favorite characters just because of how, I don't know, terrible a father he is. But I don't think he's F tier. So I'm gonna put him in the C tier. He's not the worst, but he's definitely not at any higher level. Then, speaking of the Greens, Rachel Green obviously is family. We have her 2 sisters. The sisters, again, not my favorite characters. Both annoy me greatly. There has to be characters that go in the F tier. I'm sorry, Jill, and I'm sorry, Amy. You're probably confused. You're like, oh, Phoebe this early? No. This is her twin sister, Ursula, which if you guys didn't know, the whole character of Phoebe and actually bringing on Ursula as a character was because of a previous TV show that Lisa Kudrow was in. Think of Phoebe's aloof character, but more so mean. Just probably the worst person. Like having their birth certificate and not telling Phoebe that she did, her whole breakup with Joey, her leading this other guy on thinking that she was in church and stuff. Ursula, not a great person, but a good character. I'm putting her in C tier. Now we have Frank Buffet, Phoebe's, I believe, half-brother? Is that how that works? Phoebe's trying to find her dad, and she finds out that she actually has a brother. Actually, the brother that Phoebe has triplets for. My sister's gonna have my baby! Now, that might sound terrible. She had those triplets for her brother outside of the natural means of it. That sounds weird. It's an old show. I don't know what you want me to say. I can't put him in B with the parents. I'm actually gonna put him at the top of C so far. And then you have the person that he ends up marrying, which was his teacher at one point in time. I'm gonna toss her at the bottom of the C tier because I thought her character was just a little Actually, no. I'm gonna put her at the top of F tier. That's what I'm gonna do. This is kind of the mix of family and exes because right now we have Ross's original family, if you want to say that. We're gonna start off this whole thing with Susan, who actually wasn't an ex of Ross's, but Ross's ex-wife who he has a kid with at the beginning of the entire series, which we'll get to in a second. They end up getting a divorce because she's actually a lesbian, and this is her now wife. Great character. Her and Ross butt heads a lot. She's going straight up in B tier. That's pretty simple for me. And then you have Ross's ex-wife, Carol, who I'm gonna put right up in the same spot. Ross and Carol's son, Ben, who is actually played by Cole Sprouse from The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. I think he's the only kid character on here, and he has one of those classic episodes with Rachel when Rachel's trying to teach him all these like pranks and everything, with a great moment of throwing Ross down the stairs. I don't know how much of these things I'm going to show just because of copyright and such, but I'm gonna toss him right up in the B just because there was no other really good kid characters. Now what we're gonna do is a rapid fire through all of the Friends X's. The Friends X's go from here to here. That's a lot of X's, okay? I have 2. So we're gonna start off with Rachel's exes actually, and this was the person she was going to marry, ended up leaving in the first episode of the entire series, which is Barry. I hate this character so much, and he's going at the bottom of F tier so fast. Then we got Paolo, the Italian guy, the one that famously kind of stopped Ross for going after Rachel at the beginning of the entire series. We all know him as Crap Weasel.
Do you know the word crap weasel? That's funny, because you are a huge crap weasel.
He's gonna go in C tier, at the bottom of C tier, but still in C tier. Then a shocker to me that they threw on this list, but Paul. Rachel ends up dating Ross's girlfriend's dad because of that and putting him at the bottom. He's the worst one so far. Then we have Joshua. Many embarrassments end up getting between her and Joshua, and he's going to go down in F tier as well, but I'm gonna put him above Paul and below Barry. Then we have Tag, which I think was my favorite ex of Rachel's, to be honest. She hires him as her assistant later on in the show, even though he's not qualified for it at all because he's hot. He's just a kid at heart, and I think he's pretty funny. I'm gonna put him in the C tier between Ursula and Rachel's dad. That gets rid of some of the bigger Rachel exes, and now we're gonna get into the Monica exes. One of my favorite Monica exes was Pete Becker, I believe. It was played by Jon Favreau, who, if you don't know who that is, have you seen Marvel? He directed the first 2 Iron Man movies, I believe, is now known as Happy Hogan in the MCU. Great character. It was really good story of like him not being like this, you know, conventionally attractive guy that Monica's not really attracted to, and then ends up really liking him, only for him to, you know, want to be one of the world's greatest fighters and getting his butt kicked. And I think he deserves C tier. I'm gonna put him right above Tag. And then obviously Monica's most famous ex, the one she almost went back to instead of getting with Chandler near the end of this, I think season 6, season 7, Richard, Dr. Burke. He is the eye doctor of her family, one of her dad's like best friends, so huge age difference here. Just a great character, plus played by a fantastic actor. They had really good actors come up in Friends as guest stars and random people. It was actually kind of crazy. And I think I'm gonna put Richard, I'm right between B and A, and strictly because my mom will kill me if I don't put him in A tier, I'm gonna put him in A tier. My mom freaking loves that guy. And that brings me to another A tier secondary character, with a lot of people think that Phoebe should have ended up with this dude, and it's David, the science guy from early on in Friends. He does come back later, wants Phoebe to marry him, and she turns him down, but just a good guy, you know? And he's gonna go right up in the A tier, right below Richard. Now we have one of the most famous, not even one of the most famous ex in Friends history, and it's not even close. One of the most famous sitcom laughs of all time, and that is Janice. Phenomenal character. The fact that like some random ex becomes such a huge part of the show, not that she was in the show a lot, but just a huge like character to be thought of in the show. She will be our first S tier character. You don't have a lot of the funny comedic Chandler moments in the first few seasons without Janice. Now moving on to another Chandler ex, but also a Joey ex, and that's Kathy. Joey starts dating Kathy, but Chandler is in love with her. Kathy ends up kind of cheating on Joey with Chandler, leads to a huge issue between Joey and Chandler that gets solved by him living in a box.
Yeah! What happened? You kissed my girlfriend.
I really liked her as an ex, obviously. I really liked her as a like side girl in the series. She doesn't belong in the S or the A. I'm gonna toss her at the bottom of the B tier. Another shocking choice to have on this list, in my opinion, is Joey's brief relationship with, I believe her name was Kate, an actress that was lead with him in one of his plays at the beginning of the series that he had huge feelings for, and she ended up moving to go do some soap opera. Not memorable. It was in like an episode maybe. I'm gonna put her literally at the bottom of the F tier. Why is she even on this list? Then you have another of Joey's exes, Janine. She is the person who, once Chandler moved out and moved in with Monica, when their relationship started getting more serious, she ends up being Joey's roommate, who he falls for because, I mean, she's an incredibly attractive model. Why wouldn't you? But overall, as a character, very, very bland. And you're going in the F tier right above Kate. Then we have Joey / Ross's ex in Charlie. I originally started dating Joey. She's a scientist, and so that obviously didn't mend well. And so she ends up being with Ross during the whole Joey, Rachel, Ross, Charlie situation. A decent character, not terrible. I'm gonna put her actually at the top of the C tier. Then we have one of the main foils in the first parts of Friends. You have Julie, the person that Ross is with during the whole time where Rachel knows about Ross's feelings for her. Honestly, I feel so bad for Julie. I really do. She seemed like a great person. I don't think she's a bad character. She had crap done to her and I feel bad about it. She's actually gonna be right above Kathy in my list. A lot of people are always like, oh, she stopped Ross and Rachel getting together. Who cares about Ross and Rachel? It's a Monica and Chandler show. Let's be honest. Then you have Ross's ex, Emily, the person he ends up marrying later in the season and ends up being his divorce. The main reason being he, at the altar, said Rachel's name.
Take the Emily. Take the Rachel.
But I didn't like how Emily played that off. I've never had that done to me, so I don't know how I would react to it. Her wanting to make the marriage work with Ross, as long as Ross never saw Rachel again, does not sit well with me. She is going at the bottom of the C tier personally. Then we have one of the later exes by Ross in Mona. And I actually think out of all the guys' exes, Mona might be my favorite when it comes to just as a person. I wouldn't be able to handle Janice in real life, but you have to put her in S tier because of the character itself. I think Mona was fantastic. She was a great choice for Ross outside of Rachel. If Ross and Rachel didn't happen, he should have ended up with Mona. The only thing I feel so bad with Mona because of the whole situation with Rachel and Rachel having Ross's baby, that makes it super awkward for her to even be there half the time. I'm actually gonna put Mona right below the Geller's parents in the B tier. Now we get to another of the Ross's exes that we've already kind of talked about, which is Elizabeth. Elizabeth was a previous student of Ross's in college that he ends up getting with in one of the later seasons. Obviously, she's a college kid, you know, she's not nearly as mature as he is. Obviously, there's a huge age gap there. Very forgettable character. She's attractive, but very forgettable. And I'm gonna toss her at the bottom of C, right below Emily. I do think it led to comedic moments between obviously her and Ross and Rachel and Paul, which we talked about earlier. But outside of that, Now we're getting into the random people that were throughout the show that for some reason, some of them are even on this list. I don't know why. And others that we'll get to in a second that are like beloved recurring characters. Luckily, Ugly Naked Guy is not on this list, but if he were, he'd probably have to go in one of the top tiers just because of the running gag at the beginning of the series, but he's not on this list. Who is on this list is actually Chandler's boss. Why? I don't know. There was like no comedic moments with him, really. He was a jerk half the time. One of the typical like CEO, I'm a man's man kind of guy. He is actually gonna go at the bottom of this entire list right now. Why is he even here? And to be completely honest, I think that's Chandler's boss. The picture's so dang small and he's such a random character. Next we have Erica. Now at the very end of the show, we find out that Monica and Chandler can't really have kids, even though they're trying, and they end up adopting twins from this girl named Erica. Again, I don't really know why she's on this list. I'm gonna put her at the top of F tier. No, I'm gonna put her at the bottom of C tier, and here is why. One of my favorite Chandler moments that isn't necessarily a funny moment is when he says his speech about Monica when they're trying to get her to agree to let them adopt her children. And it has nothing to do with her, it's just the fact that she chose them because of that speech, which is why she's going in C tier and not F tier. Then we have, I'm shocked he's on this list, but I'm glad he is. We have Eddie, which was Chandler's roommate after Joey moved out. Joey started making good money on Days of Our Lives. He moved out to get an apartment of himself, and in comes Eddie. His character is something out of the mind of just a comedic genius. Like, he's creepy. He's just what you fear in having a roommate situation. If you think of, if you've ever had bad roommates, boom.
Hey, Eddie. What are you doing here?
Nothing, Roomie, just watching you sleep.
And I'm gonna put Eddie in the C tier. I'm gonna put him right below Ursula because I think he's criminally underrated when it comes to random side characters. I thought his character was hysterical, just a crazy lunatic person.
I mean, that guy is standing in the window holding a human head. He is standing in the window holding human head.
Then you have Estelle, Joey's agent, ended up dying later in the show, the character did. I'm gonna toss her at the bottom of the C tier. I don't know. Then you have one of the classic running gags and Mr. Heckles, who lived below Monica and Rachel and would always have noise complaints. The character dies and they clean out his apartment because everything gets left to the annoying neighbors above them because he didn't have any family. I'm gonna put him at the top of the B tier. Yeah, top of the B tier. He even appeared in the reunion. That's how much he means. Up next, we have Mr. Triger. He ran the apartment that they all lived in. I don't know what you call those people, but the people who, fix everything, they go to them with complaints and stuff. I don't know what you call them, but Mr. Triger, classic moment with Joey learning how to dance. I'm gonna toss him at C tier level, and I'm gonna put him right between Tag and Mr. Green. Now, guys, we've gotten to the point that everyone has been waiting for. I gave you a tease with some of the classic characters and Janice going to S tier earlier. Now we've gotten to the bigger characters, in my opinion, in the show. We've got the 6 friends, we've got an extension of that, and we have, I believe, the person who made the most appearances outside of the 6 friends in Gunther. He was always at Central Perk, where they always went and got coffee, and was in love with Rachel for the entirety of the show. So many good moments with him and Ross competing. He's going in the S tier. He's going below Janice in the S tier. He means that much to the show. Unfortunately, he couldn't be at the reunion, but they did show him on Zoom really quick. But you don't really have Central Perk without Gunther. And Central Perk is one of the most famous sitcom locations of all time. Now we get to the extension of the main 6. I say that he's the extension because he's the person who actually ends up marrying Phoebe at the end of the series, and that is Mike, played by one of my favorite actors in Paul Rudd. And he is gonna go right up at the top of A tier. He's not S tier, but he's at the top of A tier. All right, now it's come down to the moment we've all been waiting for. The 6 friends. We have Phoebe, we have Joey, Rachel, Ross, Monica, and Chandler. I'm going to rank them in that order. Not in that order. I'm going to go in that order to rank them. I'm going to tell you right now, they're all S tier. You can't have friends without these 6 people. In reality, Janice and Gunther could be at the top of A tier just to, you know what? I'm making a decision to show you the gap between these 6 friends and the rest of the show. I am gonna put Gunther and Janice in A tier. I know I had them in S tier. That's when I was going through all the characters and I get to the end and I recognize there's such a huge gap between the lowest of the 6 friends and Janice that it has to be like this. And we're gonna start everything off with Phoebe. I'm gonna go ahead and toss Phoebe in the S tier. Such a great character to really show you how important it is to be yourself. No matter how quirky you are, no matter how much people think you're weird or different, it's so important to be yourself, and she was like a pioneer in sitcom when it comes to being kooky and different. She obviously ends up coming up with the most famous song to come out of the series, which is Smelly Cat. I'm gonna put her in S tier, but we're gonna see where she fits along as I go through. Then we have Joey. Joey, I think, is criminally underrated. I think a lot of people think he's just the womanizer, I kind of think Joey's the most loyal person in all of Friends. He never does anything to hurt any of the other people. He steps aside a lot. Now, he does end up getting with Rachel, so there's a little nick there, but he does let Ross be like, dude, if this isn't okay with you, I'm not gonna do it. And Ross has his little famous moment of, I'm fine.
I don't know why it's coming out all loud and squeaky, because really, I'm fine.
Honestly, probably the most comedic moments outside of Chandler in this entire show. I am gonna put him above Phoebe. There's a lot of people who think Phoebe and Joey should have ended up together. I am not one of those people. Joey was the only one who didn't really get an ending, which caused him to have a spinoff, which I wish didn't happen. But him as a character in this show, I'm putting him above Phoebe. Then you get to Rachel, obviously the most famous person in this show. She went on to do the most things, Jennifer Aniston, obviously. She started a craze with her Rachel haircut in the 90s, something that apparently she hated, but everyone loved and copied after her. She's a great character, but I don't like her character as much as I like Phoebe and Joey. It's nothing against Jennifer Aniston or Rachel. Like I said, they're all S tier. I just have to move one in front of the other. Then we get into Ross, the person who was cast first, I believe, in this entire group, because this character was basically written for David Schwimmer, and he plays it perfectly. Hard not to root for the guy when it comes to Ross and Rachel, except for one glaring moment. I'm just gonna say this. All the actors and actresses of the main 6 agree with me. They were on a break. But even with saying that, I still wouldn't have done what he did, and I'm putting him below Rachel. Once Ross and Rachel like broke up and they went on a break, he gets with the girl from the copy place just for him and Rachel to get back together the next day and doesn't tell her about it. That's my main thing is, yes, they were on a break, but you gotta be honest and straightforward with that kind of stuff. Then he had some other awkward stuff with like anger management issues later in the series. Ross is going at the bottom of the 4 that I've ranked so far. Love, love, love Monica. I feel like at times I am a Monica when it comes to like organization and stuff. It's hard not to love Monica, even like through her quirks of just wanting to be extremely competitive and in control and have everything organized. That leads to so many good, funny moments. But I'm putting her in between Phoebe and Rachel. I like her way more than Rachel, but I love Phoebe's just randomness. That leads us to Chandler. I don't have to talk much about this. Matthew Perry's rendition of the character Chandler is one of the best sitcom characters of all time. You really can't have Friends without any of these main 6, but I think that impact would be the biggest with Chandler, and that's why I'm ranking him as the best character in all of Friends. There's way too many good comedic moments for me to even list here. I can throw in a couple of my favorites, but there's so many one-liners, so many little bits. And even outside of that, guys, if you watch some of the Friends bloopers that you can find on YouTube, he's the one that's playing all the jokes on the cast outside of the actual episodes. It's fantastic stuff. Guys, let me know if you agree with this tier list. Let me know if you even like this video. I know it's more niche. I love the Friends reunion so much. It brought in so many memories and so many emotions that I felt like I had to do something. And let me know if you disagree with anything. Don't forget to like if you liked the video, sub if you loved it, and be cool to everyone because you never know what people are going through. And with that, I'm gonna get up out. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I love you guys. Peace. Oh, I wasn't even focused.